Many viewers might wonder how Saddam Hussein's dictatorship began. The critical event happened in Baghdad in 1958, reshaping Iraq and leading to Saddam's highly controversial rule. Like many in the Middle East, this event was influenced by historic British interference. It was a gruesome massacre that still divides opinions in Iraq. The British, familiar with the region from World War I, captured Baghdad in 1917. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed and the British established the Mandate of Mesopotamia. Following the fall of the Ottoman Empire, Britain acquired several territories in the Middle East. They also controlled Egypt, crucial for the Suez Canal, and influenced Transjordan, now Jordan, and much of the Arabian Peninsula. In 1921, the British decided Iraq needed a king and chose a foreigner, a common practice. They picked Faisal I, the third son of the Grand Emir and Sharif of Mecca, who had grown up in Istanbul. He was a member of the Hashemite family and ruled parts of the former Ottoman Empire, including briefly Syria and Jordan. Although a Sunni Muslim, he ruled a predominantly Shiite Iraq. Faisal I promoted Pan-Arabism to unite Iraq with British Palestine and the French mandates of Syria and Lebanon under his rule. This potential union worried Iraq's Shiite leaders, as it would make them a minority in the new kingdom. Despite these challenges, Faisal fostered unity among Sunni, Shiites, Jews, and Kurds in Iraq. In 1932, Britain granted Iraq independence, although British influence remained strong, mainly due to Iraq's oil. Faisal I's reign as an independent monarch was short-lived. He died in 1933 at the age of 48, succeeded by his son, King Ghazi. Like his father, King Ghazi supported Pan-Arabism and sought to end British influence. He backed a military coup that replaced the civilian government, causing internal tensions. He also proposed annexing Kuwait, then under British control, an idea later pursued by Saddam Hussein. King Ghazi died in a car crash in 1939 at the age of 27. He was succeeded by his young son, King Faisal II, who was only 3. A regent, Prince Abd al-Ilah, was appointed to govern in his stead. Iraq aligned with the British and Western allies during World War II. However, in April 1941, a pro-German military coup led by 4 Iraqi generals occurred in Baghdad. The coup aimed for complete independence with German and Italian support. King Faisal II, Prince Abd al-Ilah, and Prime Minister al-Said were deposed and went into exile. The British quickly intervened to address the turmoil in Iraq. British and Empire forces launched a swift campaign, capturing Baghdad and expelling German and Italian influences. They reinstated the regency, and British troops occupied Iraq until 1947. During this period, King Faisal lived in exile in England, studying at Harrow School alongside his cousin, Prince Hussein, who would later become King Hussein of Jordan. After World War II, Faisal returned to Iraq, developing a keen interest in modernizing the country. In May 1953, Faisal officially became the ruler, but the rise of Pan-Arabism made the Middle East, including Iraq, politically unstable. Still young and inexperienced, Faisal relied heavily on his cousin Prince Abdul and his prime minister for advice, some of which was controversial. Opposition to his rule grew in Iraq, fueled by pan-Arab nationalism, anti-imperialism, and the rise of communism. Economic disparities further strained the country. During the regency, Prince Abd al-Ilah had signed a controversial agreement with Britain in 1948, allowing a prolonged British military presence in Iraq. This agreement was confirmed by Faisal in 1955, sparking massive protests as the British sought to retain control over Iraq's vital oil fields. Economic inequality between the wealthy elite and the general population led to increased communist activity in Iraq. In 1952, Egypt's monarchy had been overthrown by Colonel Gamal Abdel Nasser, a radical pan-Arabist. In 1956, Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, leading to a British, French, and Israeli invasion of Egypt. The Suez Crisis intensified Iraqi discontent with the Baghdad Pact, which allowed British garrisons in Iraq. Many Iraqis began to see Faisal as part of the problem. In February 1957, opposition groups formed the Front for National Union, including National Democrats, Independents, Communists, and members of the Ba'ath Party, a socialist pan-Arab political group. Meanwhile, the Iraqi army officers formed the Supreme Committee of Free Officers, modeled after the organization that had brought Nasser to power in Egypt. This was a significant threat to Faisal and his government, who would need to rely on the army to stay in control. However, attempts to appease the officers with benefits failed. On February 1, 1958, Syria joined Egypt to form the United Arab Republic. However, Iraq did not recognize this new state. Due to blood ties between the Iraqi and Jordanian royal families, both parts of the Hashemite family, Iraq and Jordan, aimed to form a strong alliance. On February 14th, Iraq and Jordan agreed to form the Arab Hashemite Union, also known as the Arab Federation. As the elder, Faisal became the head of state and government, with King Hussein of Jordan as his deputy. Many Iraqis were suspicious of this new political alignment, especially with Britain's vocal support. They saw it as another scheme to maintain British influence in Iraq. Opponents within the army and civil society, critical of Faisal and his prime minister's governance, began plotting a coup. They wanted Iraq to break ties with Britain and the United States, resenting Britain's dominance over Iraq's government and economy. Inspired by Egypt's successful coup, some Iraqi elites even began showing interest in Nasser's pan-Arabism, notably the Free Officers movement within the army. Iraqi Prime Minister Ali's support for British and French intervention in Egypt during the 1956 Suez Crisis had weakened his position, isolating Iraq politically from other Arab states. Egypt and Syria's creation of the United Arab Republic, UAR, triggered revolutionary sentiments in Iraq. Yemen soon joined the UAR, and Syria supported the Arab nationalist movement in Lebanon against its pro-Western government. Fearing complete isolation if Lebanon joined the UAR, the Iraqi Prime Minister began providing military aid to Lebanon. When Ali attempted to send Iraqi troops to Jordan, it was the tipping point for the opposition. The Free Officers movement, led by Brigadier Abdal Karim Qasim and Colonel Abdul Salam Arif, saw this as an opportunity. Orders to send Iraqi units to Jordan provided the perfect cover for a coup. The 3rd Infantry Division's 19th and 20th Brigades were to march to Jordan, passing through Baghdad. Colonel Arif directed the 20th Infantry Brigade towards Baghdad, while Brigadier Qasim held the 19th Brigade in reserve. Early on July 14, 1958, troops from the 20th Brigade seized the capital's central broadcasting station, which became the coup's headquarters. Colonel Arif announced the end of the monarchy and the establishment of a republic over the radio. An interim government of 3 men was set up until free elections. Soldiers went on to capture King Faisal II, his prime minister, and other members of the royal family at Rahab Palace. King Faisal took no defensive action, despite rumors that the British had warned him of the coup. Although Faisal reportedly ordered his guards not to resist, clashes happened with the 20th Brigade. The official account suggests that the royal family agreed to surrender for assurances of their safety and an escort to another location. Amid smoke and dust, King Faisal and other royal family members and servants emerged into the palace gardens unarmed. There are differing accounts of what happened next. While the plotters claimed they intended to only exile King Faisal, many believe they planned to kill the royal family to end the Hashemite dynasty and prevent British restoration attempts. Captain Abusi, responsible for the massacre, opened fire with his submachine gun, killing the young king and other members of the royal family. Controversy surrounds King Faisal's condition after the shooting. Some reports claim he died on the way to the hospital, but Princess Hayam insisted Captain Abusi ended his life with a pistol in the palace garden. The royal family, both dead and alive, were bundled into cars, and the corpses of Faisal and Abdal-Ilah were dumped in the streets where mobs defiled them. Faisal's body was stripped naked and hung from a lamppost, while Abdal-Ilah's was dragged through the streets, mutilated, and hung from a balcony. Eventually, their bodies were taken to Al-Rashid Military Hospital, and Faisal was buried unceremoniously near the hospital. The other bodies were cremated, and their ashes were thrown into the Tigris River. The coup caught Western powers off guard, with the CIA suspecting Egyptian leader Colonel Nasser's involvement. Brigadier Qasim became Prime Minister and Minister of Defense, while Colonel Arif became Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of the Interior. The new government, composed of various political factions, replaced the legislature with a revolutionary council. In 1959, Iraq broke off ties with Britain and the United States, aligning instead with left-wing and communist countries, including the Soviet Union. Prime Minister Qasim was overthrown in a 1963 coup by the Ba'ath Party, led by General Ahmed al-Bakr. Thousands of left-wing and communist Iraqis were killed during this time, and al-Bakr was later overthrown by Deputy Prime Minister Arif. In 1968, al-Bakr regained power as Prime Minister in a bloodless coup, and Saddam Hussein emerged as a critical leader. Saddam became vice president, nationalized the Iraqi Petroleum Company, and presided over the Second Iraqi-Kurdish War. When al-Bakr resigned in 1979, Saddam took power, initiating a bloody purge of the Ba'ath Party. He invaded Iran in 1980, starting a decade-long conflict, and later invaded Kuwait in 1990, leading to the First Gulf War. The massacre of King Faisal II and his family on July 14, 1958, paved the way for Saddam Hussein's rise to power and the ensuing conflicts and suffering. If Faisal had been more aware of the anti-imperialist and pan-Arabist movements, perhaps Iraq's history would have been different. The debate over whether Iraq improved after Faisal's death or if his rule was better than what followed continues today. Regardless, the brutal massacre of the royal family marked a turning point in Iraqi politics and global history. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to 40 Shadows for more. Thank you for watching.